Today on Comicstorian, Court of the Owls, origin, battle, and we're going to tell you some of the Red Hood portions of it. A full story here at Comicstorian is us grabbing our older videos so that you don't have to go digging through our channel for them. And today I thought it'd be fun to give you the original version of the Court of the Owls we did here. We're then going to cover Night of the Owls, which is the big battle the Bat family had against them, and we also did a Red Hood tie-in. So, let's get into the origin and battle of the Court of the Owls.
It's time for Batman just to return to Gotham and be Batman. Well, Gotham is failing, and the Gotham Gazette is just filled with adjectives to explain how far Gotham has gone. But there will always be one man who stands in the way of it falling to the very bottom, and he always will. He is Batman, and he's defeated the villains of Gotham more times than anyone can count. He has done it for so often that it's become routine for Batman and his Robins. While they're keeping it safe, Bruce Wayne keeps the city safe by rebuilding, continually inventing, and using his Bruce Wayne money to get the city back on track. And Batman, he keeps it safe at night by taking out any enemy that may threaten that. But what if the enemy that Batman was trying to track down was also trying to kill Bruce Wayne? Batman arrives at the murder scene and he takes some skin cells from beneath the victim's fingernails, hoping that this would be a short case. But they come back, and he knows this is going to be an all-night-long case. The skin beneath the fingernails is Dick Grayson. Batman then uses his holographic technology to view the body that is in the city morgue, and he calls up Dick Grayson to try and figure out what's going on. But Dick Grayson has an actual reasonable explanation for this. He explains that a week ago, this guy grabbed his arm scratching him, and warned him that they were all coming for all of you. Nightwing says that he wrote it off as a religious zealot, and with nothing to go on, Batman has to stand there and wait for the assassin that is apparently going to come and kill him as Bruce Wayne in 12 hours. Not one to shy away from his responsibilities, Bruce Wayne meets up with a friend of his named Lincoln, who's running for mayor. They have a discussion in which Lincoln tries to convince Bruce to give him his future vote in the upcoming election. And when Bruce can't decide right then and there, Lincoln mentions something very interesting. That Bruce may need some allies in the upcoming months. There's an evil returning to Gotham, an evil older than anything, and Bruce will need allies against them. Bruce turns to Lincoln, shocked by what he's talking about, when the elevator opens and out steps Bruce's assassin. He immediately stabs Lincoln in the chest, and then he turns his attention to Bruce Wayne, and Bruce jumps right in. Though he has to hold back since he doesn't know who may be watching, and he doesn't want them to put two and two together and figure out that he's secretly Batman. The fight goes on for a second, but nothing that Bruce does works, even an attempt at crushing the assassin's windpipe. There must be something else going on here. And after telling him the Court of Owls has sentenced Bruce Wayne to die, Bruce gets kicked out of the window of one of the tallest towers in Gotham, the Old Wayne Tower. Now, the Old Wayne Tower consists of multiple rings built by his family, and each ring contains a gargoyle that will welcome individuals to Gotham through land and sea, facing the bridges of Gotham. Bruce's family has been building and rebuilding Gotham for decades, and this tower is a testament to what they've built. But it is also one of the tallest buildings, and there's no way that Bruce can save himself. And the assassin knows this, as he knows Gotham. But most people, including the assassin, aren't aware of the 13th gargoyle, the one that Bruce's great-grandfather built to welcome people by air. The one that is just high enough for Bruce to grab onto while the assassin plummets to his death. No one knows Gotham better than Bruce Wayne, but why did this assassin say that he was happy to kill another Wayne? And who the hell is the Court of Owls? There's nothing that Bruce Wayne doesn't know about Gotham. And how did the assassin just get up from that fall and take over the ambulance? Batman begins to go through all of the low-level thugs in Gotham trying to figure out who this assassin is. Who is the man dressed like an owl? While at the Batcave trying to figure out what's going on, Batman explains to Alfred that he just can't figure out who this guy is, and that this guy is trying to get Bruce to believe in the old folk song, The Court of the Owls. Now, since he said that he wanted to kill another Wayne, Bruce and Alfred decide to go through the Wayne family history to try and figure out who may have died suspiciously. And they can't find anybody, other than maybe his great-grandfather Alan Wayne, who said that the owls were out to get him and he died by falling into a manhole cover. Bruce then goes back to visit with Lincoln to find out what he meant by the evil is returning to Gotham, and Lincoln tells him that somebody has been watching him. He woke up one morning to find an owl standing over a pile of bones. Lincoln thinks that something has returned to Gotham, and is finally taking notice of what Lincoln and Bruce are doing in their rebuilding attempts of Gotham. Well, Bruce realizes that his friend is becoming very superstitious of an old folklore tale known as the Court of the Owls, and his great-grandfather was afraid of owls, and he starts to realize what would be the best place for an assassin to hide. Well, right beneath your feet. And Alan Wayne, he was so superstitious that he had the 13th floor of the old Wayne Tower sealed off to prevent the bad luck from getting out. But wouldn't that be a good place for an owl to nest? Or an assassin to hide out? Batman goes to the old Wayne Tower, and he blows a hole in the 14th floor to get into that little 13th floor pocket, and he discovers the assassin's hideout. He finds an odd and old-looking picture of people in owl masks, and then he calls Alfred. He needs to know all of the buildings that are in Alan Wayne's trust that he's been building with that trust so that he can go inspect all of their 13th floor. And what he discovers is that each 13th floor in the 20-something buildings in the Alan Wayne Building Trust is an owl's nest, an assassin's den, a home for the Court of Owls. And in the most recent, he finds proof, a new photo with a new group of men in masks and a new assassin. The Court of Owls must live, and then the building blows up. Batman dodges the falling rubble and quickly gets out of the whole building as it comes down around him. With that, Bruce Wayne pulls up the body of Alan Wayne, the last Wayne to claim that he was being chased by owls to see if his corpse can tell a tale. Did he die by falling in the sewer manhole that the coroner's report stated? Or perhaps it was the 50 stab wounds that Bruce found on his body that had something to do with it. Using this as his latest lead, Bruce jumps down into Gotham sewers and he continues his investigation. He will figure out who's masquerading as the Court of Owls because he refuses to believe that they are alive. He refuses to believe that there is something that has been operating in Gotham City this whole time and he didn't know about it. Batman begins to poke around where Alan's body was found in the sewers, just looking, trying to find something to work off of, when our owl assassin breaks through the wall, grabbing Batman and dragging him down while removing his utility belt. Batman looks up and he realizes that he's not in the sewers anymore, and the TV screen over his head displays 3 people in owl masks stating, "Welcome to the labyrinth, Batman." A week goes by, and no Batman answers the bat signal. Harvey Dent is beginning to wonder if maybe Batman is dead. The whole Bat family is off looking for him, and the bat signal will continue to shine as a beacon that they know Batman is out there. But where is Batman? It's not like him to not return. Batman is still in the labyrinth. It's been a week and he's had no food and no water, and his only source of water is from an owl fountain of water, and he can't trust that source. He's starting to become delusional, paranoid, and he doesn't know what to do, because he can't find his way out. He does come across photos of every man that they have killed in this labyrinth over the years, hundreds upon hundreds of them, and a camera. But he won't become the next victim. He continues exploring the labyrinth until he sees them. The Court of Owls is right there. But they're not. He's hallucinating. But this is Batman. He will find another way out. He will find the Court of Owls. Their tricks won't work on him. He invented the tricks. He goes deeper and deeper until he comes across some coffins with the photos of children on them. It's a story they're telling me, he tells himself. They're trying to tell me their story. And then he goes back to the room with the photos on the walls, only now it has his photo on the wall. A little farther in, he comes across an elderly couple. It couldn't be. Are they his parents? He can't believe it. How can they be here? And he runs over to embrace them. But then they change into a screeching owl and they attack him. What's going on? Is Batman losing his mind? It's the perfect time for the assassin to strike. And he does, stabbing Batman in the back. Time continues to pass in the real world though, and the harsh truth is coming to everyone. Batman may not return. When the bat signal finally burns out, Damian pleads, "Please, Commissioner Gordon, get a new one. Now. Please." Back down below, Batman falls to the ground bleeding out and the assassin explains, "Your body will be kept here as a trophy for the defeat of a valiant enemy. It is an honor, and there have only been 3 times before this that the Court of Owl has turned their victims into trophies. Do you have anything to say to this honor?" And Batman drags himself towards the assassin and notes the ground and he says, "You moved the camera." The assassin picks up Batman's body and says, "Fine, no final address. I present to you Batman. How do you wish him to die?" As he holds Batman up to the Court of the Owls, and the court wishes him to be beat to death. So the assassin complies by punching Batman through a wall. Batman is defeated. He has no strength to go on. But then Batman sees it. A photo of Alan Wayne at the end of his life, after their torture. A photo of Alan Wayne begging. And Batman will not go down that way. He gets back up to fight and he exclaims, "I'm sick to death of owls!" And the assassin exclaims, "You dare!" And Batman replies, "Oh, I do." Batman gets his second win and he beats the tar out of the assassin, telling him, "You're nothing special. You're nothing more than a hired thug." He then goes back to the room with the fountain in it and he says, "You can't beat me. I am Gotham. Gotham is my city." And he tells them, "I took the potassium chloride from the camera that you kept moving. And it explodes real nice with the marble that you've made your fountain out of." And with that, he blows a hole in the floor and says, "I'll be back for all of you." The court then walks out as Batman leaves and sees their badly beaten assassin, and they ask, "What should we do with him?" While they could just heal him, they decide to dispose of this assassin, because there are so many more that they can wake up. Batman crawls back to the entrance of the Batcave, to be found by a panicked Alfred. He picks up Bruce and he brings him inside. And then Bruce sees something that causes just nothing but sheer fear in his eyes, and he screams, "No!" Because in front of him, it's the assassin once again. But Alfred explains that they found his body this morning and they brought him here. And he's very dead right now. Bruce begins to test the body to see how this man survived so much, and with Nightwing's help, they discover that there's a compound that the Court of Owls uses to reanimate the dead and then turn them into unstoppable assassins and put them back to sleep when needed. And this assassin, he's Nightwing's great-grandfather. Bruce explains that it was Haley's circus that was supplying the assassins for each generation, and if he hadn't taken in Nightwing, Nightwing would have been the next assassin. But this isn't where our story ends. No, it's far from it. While Batman may now know how the Court of Owls operates and where their labyrinth is, the court was prepared for this, and they're tired of hanging back in the shadows, and they won't be disappearing for decades again. This time, they're here to stay. And they want Gotham back. They want their kingdom back right now. And so begins the Night of the Owls. The Talons break into Wayne Manor and they begin to attack Bruce in his very home. But it's not just one of the Talons this time, they've awakened all of the Talons. Bruce begins to fight off multiple Talons at the same time, and he calls to Alfred, who's down in the Batcave, to give him their position so he can be better prepared. But Alfred, he has his own problems because the Talons are also breaking into the Batcave. But an interesting thing to note is that the Talons weren't even aware that there was a Batcave down here. Bruce begins to fight off as many as he can, and he rushes downstairs into the Batcave so that he can help Alfred, and the two men run into the Bat Armory so they can shut the doors and lock themselves inside. While Bruce tries to figure out what's going on, he hands a microdrive that he acquired from one of the Talons during their fight to Alfred. Alfred begins to dig into the microdrive, and he discovers that the Talons aren't there for Batman. They're here to kill Bruce Wayne. And they're also going to be going around all of Gotham to kill anybody in power and anybody who has money. All of the heads of Gotham is their target. Batman begins to come up with a plan so that he can take down the army of Talons that are fighting his home. First, he puts on his ultimate Batman armor, and then he lowers the temperature of the cave in hopes of freezing the Talons in place. Alfred then puts a word out to everyone in the Bat family. He tells them, the Talons are going after anybody with power and money, and there's a total of over 40 targets that we need to protect tonight. Good luck to all of you. The entire Bat family takes some of the names and they set off to protect the people, while Batman is still in the supersuit, attacking the ones that invaded his very home. But there's just too many Talons, and with the temperature dropping, he begins to flatline. His vitals are failing. But there's one thing that the Court of the Owls has forgotten. This is the Batcave, and as the temperature of the cave drops, the bats come out of the deepest parts of the cave in full force. Batman takes this opportunity to take out the remaining Talons, and they all slip into a hyper-frozen state. Except for one of them that is escaping. And not only that, but Bruce needs to get into the city so that he can fend off an army of Talons who are trying to kill everyone in Gotham. Well, this seems like a simple fix that doesn't even take a detective to fix. He'll just create some owl roadkill and get to work saving Gotham. He goes over the list and the allies of the Bat are already protecting some of these people, but sadly, most have already been killed. There are only 2 people that have not been killed and are not protected. Batman needs to save them. Jeremiah Arkham and Lincoln March. it's time for Batman to head to Arkham Asylum. But while Batman is busy heading off to save Arkham Asylum from the Talons and itself, the rest of the Bat family is busy. The Birds of Prey are busy fighting off against the first of the Talons, who are trying to kill Street Vermin, as he puts it. And they manage to take him out. Robin heads off a Talon who is trying to kill an army general, and he decapitates him. Batwing mutilates a Talon as it tries to kill Lucius Fox. Nightwing stabs a Talon in the heart, and then he proceeds to fight off the revived William Cobb, who mocks him by calling Nightwing nothing more than a waste of a descendant, as Cobb was his great-grandfather. Batgirl fights against Mary, a female Talon who's trying to change the bat signal into an owl signal. And during all of this, Red Hood and the Outlaws fight against the Talons who kidnapped Mr. Freeze. You see, Red Hood wants to fight Mr. Freeze, so it's time to have a heart-to-heart with these Talons. Catwoman, Spark, and the Penguin all end up teaming up, and they fight against their own Talon towards the end of the night. But while all of this is going on, Batman manages to get to Arkham Asylum and rescue Jeremiah Arkham. He then drops him off with Nightwing, who agrees to take him off his hands so that Batman can head off to save Lincoln March. So, Batman then headed off to save Lincoln March, the politician that warned Bruce back in the Court of the Owls before all of this began, and he's one of Bruce's oldest friends from his early days in politics. But Batman was too late, and March was stabbed in the chest. As he was dying, he handed a note to Batman and said, "Bring this to Bruce." And the note states, "Don't give up on this city. This city can be saved." And Batman takes that to heart. He can still save Gotham. The first thing he does is drive a scare tactic into Mrs. Powers, one of the high-ranking officials who's on the Court of the Owls. He wants to know where Joseph is. Where is the leader of the Court of Owls? She dials her husband, and Batman manages to track the signal down to the Harbor House, the house that he as a child thought that the Owls were in. But he was wrong. They weren't here. And if they are now, and he was right as a child, does this mean that the Owls actually killed his parents? No time to think about that now as he kicks in the door, prepared for a mighty fight with the entire court. Except, they're all dead. All of them. Even their supposed leader, Joseph. They all seem to have drank poison with their wine. What an anticlimactic ending. Bruce heads home and he sits in his chair, thinking about all of this. Why did the court kill themselves? It makes no sense. And why were they at the Harbor House? Does this mean that they were using this place when Bruce was a child? Does this mean that they were involved in his parents' murder? Does this mean that they were there when Bruce was a child? You see, when Bruce was a child, he was trying to find meaning, a whole reason to why his parents were killed. And he decided to investigate the theory of the Court of Owls. He thought that the Court of Owls could have caused his parents' death. He thought that they could have hired an assassin to take out his parents. So he tracked them down to the Harbor House. But he was wrong. There was nobody at the Harbor House. But like I said earlier, if they're using it now, were they using it when he was a child? So many questions with no answers. But wait. Batman just figured it all out. He figured out the last remaining person who has all of the answers. He quickly heads to the morgue to verify if his hunch was correct, and he just finds a note. "Follow me down the rabbit hole." Batman quickly heads to the only sinkhole in Gotham, where he meets up with Lincoln March. Lincoln explains that he was working for the Court of Owls, and he saw their truth. He saw what they really were that day that they attacked Bruce and Lincoln. He also saw that Bruce was Batman that day, and he put it all together. But he wants Bruce to explain. How did Bruce figure all of this out? Bruce explains that it was the pin that Lincoln said that his mother wore before he was an orphan. Well, that pin isn't really real, because that pin was Bruce's own mother's pin. She wore it when they did the painting that hung in Bruce Wayne's hall. So Lincoln's mother couldn't have had it. Lincoln March is nothing more than a front created by the Court of Owls to be placed in a position of political power. But Lincoln laughs. That pin does belong to his mother. That pin was given to mothers who placed their children in this orphanage. And his mother's name was Martha Wayne. Lincoln's real name is Thomas Wayne Jr., and he is Bruce Wayne's brother. He was born early, and the Waynes placed him in this orphanage to heal up. But Batman, he tells him that he's insane. The Court of Owls gave him that story, and it can't be true. His parents would never do that. The two men begin to fight it out, with Lincoln going on about how it's a story as old as time. Two brothers, one rich, one poor, and the rich one forgetting his kin. Batman appears to have the upper hand, but unlike the other Talon suits, Lincoln's can fly. And the two men continue to go at it, flying around Gotham City, as Lincoln explains why he is Thomas Wayne, what was expected of him from the Court of Owls. You see, when Bruce vanished to go train in the mountains all those years ago, the court raised and trained Lincoln March as Thomas Wayne Jr. to take the spotlight, to take over the family name and run the city for the court. But when Bruce returned, they created the persona of Lincoln March, and they set up the life that Lincoln ended up living now. They did this because of Bruce's return, the Wayne family had too much spotlight on it. Batman and Lincoln's fight takes them to the top of Wayne Tower, where Lincoln continues his evil villain monologue, while the entire tower begins to explode and be destroyed. With the building exploding around him, Batman manages to resist long enough to break Lincoln's mask and blind him temporarily so that he can get away from the entire tower. There was no body found, and Batman just went home to ponder everything that he had learned. Dick Grayson came by in the days that followed, and Bruce explained. First off, while many of the court's heads were killed either by themselves drinking poison or by Lincoln March tricking them, there were many more for Batman to find, and there's also a series of remaining Talons out there in the city. Also, there was another Wayne child. When Bruce was 3, there was a car accident, and the child that Martha Wayne was pregnant with was born prematurely. The child was expected to have brain damage and would remain in a vegetative state. After 12 hours, the child supposedly died in the hospital. But within hours of the child's death, a child was admitted to the Willowwood Orphanage, the one that Lincoln March grew up in. Martha Wayne was then documented as visiting the orphanage frequently, but there is a chance that her visits and the pin that she wore are both linked to the many charities that she funded. Bruce doesn't believe that his parents would have done something so heinous. But without Lincoln March's DNA, he can't be positive. Dick Grayson asks him if he'll be okay not knowing, and Bruce tells him that he'll solve this mystery eventually. But in the meantime, he's gonna rebuild Wayne Tower. Bigger, taller, because Gotham isn't Batman. Gotham isn't the Owls. Gotham is everyone. And Dick Grayson simply chuckles. And it's a little Batman too. Come on.
Not long ago in Hong Kong, Jason Todd stands atop the coffin of the crime lord asking if he's got everyone's attention. The room full of mobsters silently stare as Jason takes out the All Blade from the corpse, telling them, "Good, I'll keep it simple. All of you represent the 7 crime families of Hong Kong. I don't care how much money you have or honestly how you make it, but starting today, I get 10%. Questions?" When he finishes, an old woman shouts, "Someone, everyone, kill this little snot punk!" And after that, well, everyone died. Starfire laughs, stating that she thought she had a temper. And Roy wipes a tear, stating, "You have some of the best stories, Jason. So you killed Susie Sue's entire crime family, and that's why she has it out for you?" Jason goes on telling him, "No, well, not really. After that, family after family came to try and claim the power that I had gained. They all met the same fate as the first groups, and that's when Miss Sue came into town. On my way out of town, I killed everyone in her gang except for Susie and her father. Was it my way of trying to make amends with Hong Kong for all the trouble I caused? Maybe. But of course, I should have offed the two of them as well. I was just hoping that they'd see the light, but nope. After killing everyone on their gang, they just wanted to get revenge on me, which is why we're in Gotham. After my run-in with Susie and shooting her, Susie's father shipped her to one of the best hospitals for gunshot wounds. Now she's alive and has taken the entire children's ward of Gotham Hospital hostage. She said that I have 2 hours to turn myself into her or she's going to kill every kid there. That was 1 hour and 46 minutes ago, guys. Starfire says that the ship scanned the building and there are roughly 24 heavily armed men inside, all with their weapons trained on the innocent children. Jason tells her not to worry. We didn't come here for nothing. A few moments later, inside of the hospital, the elevator door dings for the floor where the children are, and Roy walks out asking if this is the cosmetic surgery ward. I can't tell in this light, and I really hate my nose. One of the guards points their gun at him, asking, "Did you really think that you'd take us on by yourself?" Roy snickers as he looks towards the window, and everyone else looks, and they see Starfire floating there. One of the men shouts, "The boss lady didn't say nothing about no aliens!" Starfire holds out her hand, and with a fiery burst of energy, the window shatters and the men turn into ash. She steps in, asking, "Was that too much?" And Roy tells her, no way! Those guys are here to kill a hospital full of children. They got what they deserve. While Roy and Starfire begin evacuating, Jason makes his way to the floor where Susie is staying, and he notices as the elevator doors open that there's nobody there. He waits for a moment to see if there's any movement, but then he hears screaming from up above. He sighs. Really? And then Susie comes crashing down through the elevator roof, snapping the support cable. She shouts, asking, do you think that your mask is going to keep your head from being crushed? Jason asks, what's the plan here? We both fall down and go splat. As Susie yells that she has 600 pounds of white-hot rage. I will survive this, even if you won't. As the elevator falls, it suddenly stops. And up above, Starfire holds onto the cable, saying that she trusts that she was able to stop the descent in time. Susie charges out of the elevator with Jason latched onto her, yelling, it don't end like this! It doesn't end until you're dead! Jason plants his feet to the ground, and using Susie's momentum, he flips her over onto his back, quickly pressing his gun to her head. He tells her that this is her chance. She needs to accept that what happened in the past is the past. Let it go. Susie says never. Not for a second. As long as she is still breathing, she will come back bigger and badder each time. She won't stop ever. So then Jason tells her that he respects her decision, and he pulls the trigger. Once everyone meets back up on the roof, Roy asks, seriously? That's it? We came, saved the kids and the doctors, and we just leave? This place used to be your old haunt, man. You're not even going to show us around Gotham? Jason tells him, no. They'll get back in the damn ship. As the team takes off, a distress signal comes out of the Batcave and Alfred's face appears on the screen. Jason gets ready to end the transmission, but Alfred states that tonight, the Court of the Owls have sent their assassins to kill nearly 40 people across the city. The court's targets are all of Gotham's leader, the people who shaped the city. I have uploaded a list of the targets' names here. The court's assassins, the Talons, are already en route to their targets. They are highly trained killers with extraordinary regenerative abilities. I will keep this line to the cave open as long as I can manage. Roy tells him that from what it seems like on this call that they intercepted, a lot of the Bat Buddies already have this covered. But before the line is cut, Timothy Drake says that he has intel that they have an eavesdropper. Hey, if you could hear us, Jason, we could use your hand. Starfire asks Jason if he knows this boy, and after a few moments of silence, Jason tells her, yeah, I do. Starfire quietly asks Roy if he's staying or leaving, and Roy says, you've got to be kidding. No way in hell Jason is going to stick his neck out for... But Jason stands up at the controls, stating, the information dump that Alfred sent out. Look through for a person of interest who hasn't been covered by the Bat-mites. Roy sighs, sitting down, and he scans through the files, and he says, there's one in Chinatown that they aren't covering. Victor Freeze. Cool. A short while later, over in Chinatown, Starfire kicks her legs as she lays across a stone gargoyle, stating that she doesn't understand. If you hate Batman so much, Jason, why are you helping him? Jason tells her that this isn't about him. It's about a city under siege by a group of maniacs. It isn't Gotham's fault that Batman happens to live here. Starfire then smiles, stating that she will say this about the man's work. It is a thing of beauty, though it cannot be healthy for those who live below. The three look at the giant pillars of ice, and Jason says, yeah, it's gonna be fun. He leaps off of the ledge with Starfire asking where is he going, and Roy stops her, stating, he's fine, just watch. Jason fires his grappling gun, swinging down safely onto the ice, while Roy and Starfire follow. Jason tells them that they need to get as many people out of here as possible. He'll handle Freeze. Roy then asks, shouldn't they all be going together? And Jason says, no, because we're not together. I'm here on family business. You just tagged along. Now go! He starts to make his way through the frozen city, asking himself why is he doing this. He's supposed to be taking Batman out, not helping his cause. If it wasn't for the ice castle here, you'd think this whole thing was a setup to get him arrested, or... As Jason gets closer, he hears Freeze shout out, how dare you raise your hand on me? And Jason says, nope, not a setup. He climbs through the opening to see Freeze and the assassin fighting, and the assassin yelling, no, it is you who will die tonight, now that you've chosen to no longer serve the Court of the Owls. Jason jumps between the two of them, firing his gun, stating, I don't really care who did what or why, but this ends now. Freeze shouts, I do not need your help. Allow me to make my point in a way you will understand. Jason holds out his gun and his hand begins to freeze with ice as it begins to travel up his arm. He yells out in pain, stating, I'm here to help you, damn it! And he bashes Freeze with a frozen arm. Freeze groans, telling him, apparently you're helping the wrong person. The assassin got away. Jason looks back to see the assassin escaping through the window and he sighs, all right, be right back. But if you make me track you down, I'm gonna kill you myself. He follows through the window after the assassin, and as he catches up, he tells him that this won't take but a moment. I just have to kill you and get back to Mr. Freeze. The Talon assassin spins back, grabbing onto Jason, telling him that it's too late, and the two come crashing down onto the decorative dragon float. The assassin tells them that many have served the Court of the Owls, and they've had the honor of giving their lives as the Talon, whether they have died in the line of duty or retired after their all too brief tenure. On this night alone, we have risen again to smite our master's enemies. Just then, the assassin lifts his arm into the air, holding out a knife and bringing it down, chipping away at Jason's mask. He then goes in for a second strike, but an arrow whizzes by, shooting through the assassin's hands. He shouts out in pain, asking, "Who is foolish enough to attempt a rescue?" Jason swings his frozen arm, cracking the assassin, stating, "The guy has to. He's the designated driver." The assassin quickly jumps back, retreating as Roy and Starfire land, and Roy asks if they're going after him. Jason shouts, "No! I've got it! If you're both done with the evacuation, then deal with this freezing at the source." Jason begins to follow the assassin, and Roy lets loose another flame arrow, melting Jason's hand. Jason tells him, "Right, thanks." Jason quickly catches back up to the assassin, and as he looks around, he notices certain things that he is passing, like the billboard for Haley's Circus. The way the assassin moves, it's like he carries himself like a acrobat. The flourish, the flare, he was an acrobat. As the assassin stumbles into his landing, Jason asks if this empty lot has meaning to him, and the assassin yells back, "Do not speak as if we know each other." Jason tells him, "Come on, you led me here. Why? This was the old circus, and I'm gonna take a guess and say you ran away from home and joined the circus because you believed the line that they fed every 10-year-old boy, that it's all magic and sunshine and anything is possible. What happened here? What did the court make you do here? What made a young circus performer sign his body and soul to the Court of the Owls?" As Jason steps forward, the assassin steps back in his own defense, stating, "No, not my soul, but my body, yes. It has become a mockery upon my return to life." Jason laughs, telling him, "You're preaching to the choir, buddy. I myself have been to the other side and back." After a few moments, the assassin falls to his knees, taking off his mask. "My name is Xiao Long. This is my face. As a child, I was forged into a weapon. My every thought and deed dictated by the Court of the Owls. Even my death came in a time and place of their choosing. This time, I want a say in my execution." Jason also takes off his helmet, telling him, "We're more alike than you realize. I was dead once. I get it. Starting over is scary as hell." Zhao tells him that he doesn't want to start again. He wants to end this life on his own terms. Surely he can understand that. So Jason holds up his gun to Zhao's head, and Zhao smiles. "Please." A short while later, atop of the GCPD, Batgirl stands there stating, "Took out my talent and dragged her up over here. Check. Replace the owl signal with the bat signal. Check. What to do now?" A voice then yells at her, "Hey, nice legs!" Batgirl turns back glaring, telling him, "You have 2 seconds to convince me not to throw you off this rooftop." As Jason leans back on the railing, Batgirl notices a knocked out Mr. Freeze and asks if he... Jason says, "What? Can't be nice every once in a while?" She tells him that this doesn't absolve him from every insane act that he committed. If she ever sees him again, he'll be finding himself in a cell right next to Freeze. Jason gets up, jumping over the ledge, telling her, "Better bats have tried." Speaking of, if Bruce survives the night, tell him he's welcome. And there you have it, the full story of what we did back in 2014. Now, I know this video is a little bit shorter than normal. That's because we didn't really go that in-depth into them way back in the day. So if you want us to cover it again, let me know. We can do a redux where we kind of recover everything involved in the Court of the Owls, including all of the tie-ins that happened with Night of the Owls. Now, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, as next Monday, we're going to be bringing you another full story. And on that note, have a good day. I'll see you next time.